Hi, I'm Mrs.D Math. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to go over how to model and solve two-step inequalities in 7th grade math. So let's get started. We did cover what an inequality is in the last video, but in case you missed it, an inequality is a math statement that compares the two expressions using symbols. Those symbols are usually less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. An inequality is solved the same way as an equation. So again, we're going to have a key in order to understand what everything in our problem means. And here, according to the key, I have 2x's minus 2, and that's going to be less than or equal to negative 8 on the right side. So in order to isolate or get the x by itself, I have to first remove those two negative ones. So that would be adding 2. And whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side. And then in this case, this makes a zero pair. So I have a negative 2 plus 2. And on the right side, I still have two negative pairs. If they're opposite, they're going to actually be subtracted. So now I'm left with 2x's equals negative 6, or I'm sorry, less than or equal to negative 6. So now my last step is to split those negative 6 into two equal groups. So I've got one group here and I've got one group here. So that means that there are negative 3 in each group. So that means that x should be less than or equal to negative 3. So let's go ahead and write this out mathematically, and then we'll plug in some numbers and check. So again, I have 2x minus 2 is less than or equal to negative 8. That's what I started with. So now I'm going to add 2 to both sides of my inequality. This is going to be canceled out. 2x is less than or equal to negative 6. Remember, different signs. I have to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Then I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides, and I know that x is less than or equal to negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. So that was what I originally came up with. A lot of times when you're testing it out, sometimes it's easier to visualize. So we're going to talk about really quickly how to graph this. There is another video that goes more into this process. But here, if I want to test out that negative 3, I do know that it's supposed to be equal to negative 3 because it does have the bar underneath my less than sign. So this should work if I plug in a negative 3. So let's go here to our original problem. If I have negative 3 plus negative 3 minus 2, that would be negative 6 plus negative 2 is a negative 8. And I know that that is equal to what I started with, negative 8 on the right side. So now I need to figure out, is it actually going to be less than or equal to, and test it out and see. So let's just go with this negative 10. So negative 10 plus negative 10 plus negative 2, that's going to equal a negative 22. And I know that negative 22 is less than negative 8, so that works. What if I tried a positive 10? Well, if I have 10 plus 10 minus 2, that's going to equal 18, and I know 18 is not less than negative 8, so that one does not work. So now in that case, I know on my number line that it's correct that I have anything equal to negative 3 or less than negative 3. When you're solving an inequality and your coefficient is a negative number, you're going to have to inverse your inequality sign. So just a reminder, your coefficient is the number in front of the variable or multiplying with the variable. So in this case, if it's a negative, I would have to inverse my inequality sign. So here's my key for my problem, and here's my problem. Now I have negative 4x minus 3 is greater than 9. So let's see. We're going to solve it here with our visual. So in order to get rid of these 3 negatives, I have to add 3. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So here I'm going to add 3 to this side. So these 6 here, 3 positives, 3 negatives are going to cancel to make 0. So now I have 4 negative x's, and I need to split these 12 positives into those 4 negative x's. And so in order to do that, I know that there are going to be 3 positives in each negative group. So this is where usually checking your answers is going to help you understand the sign problem. So in this case, because these 4 x's are negative, as I'm dividing these positives into those negative x's, I have to flip my inequality sign. So that means that my final answer should be that x is less than negative 3. Okay, so let's see. Let's write this mathematically. We have negative 4x minus 3 is greater than 9 is what we started with. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. This zeroes out. Negative 4x is greater than 12. So now I'm dividing by a negative 4. So I should flip my inequality sign. Okay. So again, let's just do this quick little number line here. We have 0, 10, negative 10, and a negative 3. All right, so we're going to have an open circle at negative 3. So if I plug in a negative 3, it should not work for this problem. So if I go back here and say that I have negative 4 times negative 3, that equals 12. And 12 minus 3 equals 9. And 9 is not greater than 9, which I started with on this side. If I plug in a negative 10, okay, I have negative 4 times negative 10 minus 3. Well, that equals 40, and 40 minus 3 equals 37. And I know 37 is greater than 9. So that one works. I'm going to change colors here. So what if we plugged in this positive 10? So we'll put a check here because I know that negative 10 worked. Negative 4 times positive 10 minus 3, that's negative 40 minus 3, which is a negative 43, which is not greater than 9. So this one does not work. So that tells me that my less than negative 3 is indeed correct. So I did have to flip my sign. I hope this video helped you understand not only the models and how to solve mathematically, but also how to check your answer to make sure that your sign is the correct direction. Because remember, if your coefficient is a negative, then you do have to flip your inequality. I'm Mrs. D Math. This has been Model and Solve 2-Step Inequalities in 7th grade math. I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.